Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Christina.
Yeah, it's very exciting. In December, we decided to, I work with Iconic Events, in case some of you don't know, and I've met a lot of you, and I'm also working with Laura and Beth and Shelly, and I'm not, I hope I don't miss anyone. But we decided to create a permanent live network. So in the past, live has kind of come and gone, and it's really been based on the fact that content hasn't been consistent. And so what we did is we reached out to the UFC, Zuffa, and we told them that we were going to be creating this live network that was permanently enabled, and would they help us with content so that we could keep the momentum going. And they were gracious enough to work with us on a contract, and we now have secured it for the entire year. It's one event, mainly one event every month on a Saturday night at 7 p.m. And we, right at 7 o'clock, we go live. We've grown from 15 theaters now to this next event on April 24th. We'll be at 140 locations. And we work with every single regional circuit out there. It's been really fantastic. And and it's actually grossing really well. And the attendance is building as the COVID capacities, are changing. So, and this April 24th is a very stacked fight with 3 title weight fights. So it's going to be huge. And my question to you is, Bruce, how well do you get to know the fighters? Do you become friends with them and have ongoing relationships, or is it just kind of over once the fight's done?
No, I'm kind of like Uncle Bruce,
Okay.
to the fighters. I'm a brother, I'm a father, I'm an uncle, and I have created many. And by the way, congratulations on all that. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I remember when I forget the gentleman's name, but they handled all the bar sales, and all the type thing. But now that ESPN's come in the picture and given the UFC billions for, the pay-per-view rights and all of that, I'm happy to see it's almost like you're doing the closed circuit, what it used to be called closed circuit. So I think it's really fantastic, and congratulations. If you ever need me to promote anything like that, the UFC doesn't control that. You can always come to me direct. I'll be happy to work with you in promotion if you want to.
Oh, that would be amazing. We'll definitely reach out. Thank you very much for the time.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. But getting back to the question, I've created some amazing relationships, just whether it's Randy Couture, George St. Pierre, Chuck Liddell, Conor McGregor, even though I got mad at Conor when he went from being the great role model to being the bit of a-hole he was for quite a while. And I made no bones about speaking publicly about that on TMZ or whatever. I don't care what Conor thought. It's like, I believe we all have a responsibility to be role models because of the young kids that are watching, and there's no room for that kind of behavior. But hopefully he's learned, because his last outing, he was so respectful, and it was a Conor that I love, and it's a great story, and we all have a right to redeem ourselves. But I sit with fighters and I talk to them about how to handle themselves outside of the octagon, because to be a good role model, to be the greatest that you can be, is not just about your fighting ability inside the octagon. It's how you handle yourself outside, walking in, and think beyond your guns for retirement. So I try to give as much time to the fighters, and it's amazing. It's like Boy Scouts go to camp. Boy and Girl Scouts go to camp every time we have a show weekend. You see the same people you travel all over the world with. These fighters have such amazing backstories and stories themselves, and some highly educated that are in there fighting. It's a fascinating realm of diversity. And it's one of the things that keeps me going, because if I didn't have that kind of experience being 25 years in this business, if I can't go in that octagon every night and treat it like my very first night, meeting these new fighters, feeling I have to do the best I can do and prove myself that night to Dana White, the owners, to the fans such as yourself, and to the fighters that I deserve this job, I take that attitude. I go in Saturday night this week, it'll be my first show. I go in next Saturday, it's going to be my first show. This is the attitude I maintain and the passion I hold. So yes, great relationship with fighters, great group of people. The female fighters, amazing. I definitely would not want to fight any of these girls. I'll tell you that much. These are supermen and super women. And when the women fight, man, they throw it all on the line. Probably sometimes the most exciting fights in the night, without question.
Teresa, why don't you step in?
Thanks so much, Bruce.
You're welcome.
I wanted to thank you for your time today, but then also throw the trivia question out to the group and let them think on that. So the trivia question is, what event did Bruce do the 360 at? Before we get into the questions, can we get your catchphrase?
Bruce.
Can you what?
Can we get your catchphrase?
Oh, sure.
Give it to us.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time for the championship of the world. Good morning.
Hey, that's awesome. We're going to pass it around the room a little bit, but we're going to start off with Rebecca Pelly from Box Office.
Hi, Bruce. Thanks so much for your time. It's been really inspiring listening to you. And I'm a big, I love action movies, martial arts, fighting movies. I know you mentioned your friendship with Chuck Norris earlier, and I see your great Dr. No poster there. I was wondering, who are some of your favorite, fighters on screen? Some of your favorite action movies? Like, who do you see and you're like, that person really, either now or like, people in the 60s and the golden age of fighting movies?
Oh, sure. Thank you. It's a good question. You go back, Bruce Lee obviously was a big emphasis on me, getting me into the martial arts, especially with Enter the Dragon. My friendship with Steve McQueen, Bruce used to come out and train him at his house before I met Steve. And afterwards, Chuck Norris used to come out and train him. Chuck Norris, of course, a big emphasis. A friend of mine for many years, Jean-Claude Van Damme, you may know, used to love to watch Jean-Claude's movies. And John's a good friend of mine too. He's a great guy. Been through some turmoil in his life and definitely come out on top. Steven Seagal, I used to love to watch his movies too, although Aikido is not the greatest street fighting technique, but I would not want to screw around or try to fight Steven Seagal. He's a big, powerful man. Had dinner with him in where was I? In Argentina. We were doing a TV commercial together. It was pretty Buenos Aires. We were in Buenos Aires. So remember, it was a fun evening having dinner with Steven Seagal. He's definitely got an ego. There's no question, but it was a lot of fun. So now that when the UFC came around and you see the fighting technique they do there, you realize that in movies, it's movie fighting. If you understand real fighting, there's real fights and there's movie fights, and the UFC brought reality to it. So in today's world, the John Wick movies with Keanu Reeves, I love the martial arts and I love the way that works, and watching him and Halle Berry, who I know also, and she really puts her all in every movie. As a matter of fact, she's coming out in a film where she plays, if I'm not mistaken, it's either a mother who becomes a mixed martial artist to take care of her family, but it was one of those storylines, and she's with the UFC champion Valentina Shevchenko in the film. And Halle was telling me how she's been training really hard for it, and that's coming out, I think, in a few months. But if you watch them work in the movie and John Wick, love that stuff. Really, really cool. There's so many good action films that come out, and there's ones that I look at, I'm like, okay, it's the movies. What can you do? Dramatic license adds a lot to film. But I've been an action hero and lover, and whether male or female, my whole life. I mean, James Bond, of course, #1. Go back to my early days, John Wayne. It's amazing how it's all developed to now. It's just so fast, and there's just so much, and it's going to get more so. So I'm a film buff. My whole house is like, this poster is the original French Dr. No poster. My whole house is decorated with vintage movie posters from the 50s, 60s, 40s, and 30s, because the artwork is phenomenal. I have a 7-foot It's a Wonderful Life poster up there that's one of less than 10 known, that if I ever lose everything I have, all the money I have, I'll be homeless on the street with that under my arm, because that's going nowhere.
Let's jump to Mario. You had such a great response to his talk about Argentina. I want to let you talk to Bruce.
Say about what again, please?
No, because I'm Argentinian, so of course, whenever you say Argentinian, I jump out of emotion.
You're full of passion like Brazilians. You jump all day long. You're at 12 at night. It's a different world when I travel.